Well, good afternoon, and welcome again to another edition of Stay at Home and Brew It. I'm Jeff Perot, and the individual you see kind of rushing in and out of here, getting a couple last-minute things together for this podcast is actually Cedric Freeman. He will be joining us shortly. Today we're going to talk about something which I actually have no knowledge about whatsoever, but Cedric has quite a bit of experience with, and it's the idea of making kombucha. I had never heard of kombucha much before until actually, I just saw a few people drinking it, but that was it. I mean, my knowledge of kombucha is actually next to nil. So when Cedric gets here, in just a moment, we will talk about it because he has quite a bit of experience with kombucha, both what it is and how to make it, and how to make it well too. So with that, I think. You ready, Cedric?
Yeah, I'm just preparing a couple of things here. One thing that we definitely need here is some hot water to start off with, and that's what I was accomplishing. We have a water cooler that also dispenses hot water, so that's one of the cool little hacks that I got. You can also use your coffee pot. If you clean it really well with some vinegar, make sure that it's all clean and distilled. And you can start that way.
Well, so you're
Let's
ready?
get into it.
All right. So, I was telling everybody that I know nothing about kombucha. So what is kombucha? I mean, because it sounds kind of mysterious to me.
Yeah, it's a lot of mysterious, and for Texas people, we have a prized possession that is sweet tea.
Okay.
I know Stubby doesn't like it, but a lot of people in Texas love sweet tea. And what we're going to do here is we're going to kind of make sweet tea, but we're going to make it a little bit healthier, so it actually works with our body.
Okay.
Kombucha is an ancient tea from China. It's usually made using black tea, which they love. In America, we kind of adjust it a little bit for our taste, so we do add a little bit of green tea to it, just so it could get a little bit more effervescent. We are suckers for carbonation as well, so it allows the yeast to get a little bit more happy with it, which produces a little bit more carbonation at the end.
Durillo, fantastic hop. I
Love
like
it.
that.
Thanks, Brock.
What other questions you got for me, Jeff?
So you mentioned the idea that it's an ancient Chinese tea. That now, so has it been around for centuries? Is this a relatively new?
This has been around for centuries.
Okay.
Like all good things, we're just taking it and then transforming it into something else that's a little bit more updated, a little bit more, again, American-esque. Because the traditional Chinese tea was just black tea steeped, and that was it. But now what we're doing is we're actually adding sugar to it, and we're going to ferment it a little bit more than they did back in the day.
Okay, so now are we using, I know a lot of people here are familiar with beer yeast and wine yeast and that sort of thing, and even cider yeast. Are we using a similar yeast, or is there something different that we use to ferment it?
So it's a little bit different. Now, this yeast's whole purpose is not to make alcohol per se. There is some nice yeast strains in there that are closely similar to beer. I actually did an experiment where I actually raised a kombucha starter from an infant to actually include the Kvike yeast strain. And what that did in turn is fermented really fast and then started to spit out all the different acids quicker than it would if you were just using a normal culture that you would from a big box store or even just from us.
Okay. So is it, I know I get this all the time with, beer and wine and stuff. Is
especially
it safe?
with home brew.
Yeah. So, is it safe to do this? Because, I've seen kombucha in stores and stuff, but is it safe for me to make it at home, or?
Yeah, it's definitely safe for you to make it at home. What I will tell you to do is to get either pH strips, or if you're colorblind, just get a pH meter. And that pH meter definitely going to tell you whether it's in a safe range or in a not safe range.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess, can it get really, really acidic, or?
It can get really acidic, but then you're moving into more of the apple cider vinegar. You're getting more into the kombucha starter. See, the thing about it's the ultimate unity project here. Just gotta say that, because once you start brewing,
Like the Unity cookie.
it's the Unity cookie. We had some of those. Thank you, Gene. They were beautiful. Thank you, Seinfeld, for teaching me about those. But yeah, it's the ultimate Unity thing. And one thing is because you have two things working together. And if they don't work together, if one outruns the other one, then it's time to move forward, kind of scrap it a little bit.
Okay.
But as long as you keep your two cultures in check, then I mean, it replicates itself 100 times over.
Okay.
Like any kombucha brewer, once you start, it moves quickly.
Okay.
It moves very quickly.
So does it something it takes a long time to make, or?
So your first prep, which I'm actually going to do now.
Oh, okay, great.
Our first prep is actually steeping our tea. And just like normal tea, we're just going to, I got a little hop sack here, thank you, Stubby, that I'm just going to put over this cup. And then I'm going to pour my tea leaves in it and kind of steep it for 3 to 4 minutes.
Okay. See, Tyler, can you see that okay? Okay.
You guys have switched spots. You can put it on the camera.
Okay. Or you want me to put it on the Tyler cam for you?
Yeah. Can
Okay.
you tie that off and
Yeah, sure.
steep
And kinda
that for a
steep
little
it.
bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
Look at Jeff making
I
his
making
first.
kombucha?
He's making his. You're making. Okay, so what we're first making is kind of like wort.
Okay.
If we want to refer it back to beer.
Joe, we're brewing kombucha today.
Yeah, we're brewing kombucha. I mean, yeah. All right, so you see Jeff over there steeping nicely. That's how you can tell that he is a master brewer. Now, Jeff, have
Yes.
you ever steeped any tea at home? Do you ever?
Yes, I have. I've got some green tea at home that I sometimes steep, and it's a good one.
Yeah, I like when other people do stuff that's kind of similar, but not exactly it, because it shows how much you're already in the mood for things, and that you can change it just a little bit and make a totally different thing.
Okay. Looks like Joe is not too high on the kombucha.
And
He has
that's
a-
okay.
He has a little vomit face.
It may not be your thing, but trust me, it is somebody's thing. And I'll just start with this. At the store, one bottle of 16-ounce kombucha can range anywhere from $5 to about $8. So when you're talking about the savings of this, I mean, you save a lot of money just by brewing it yourself. And we're only making a 1-gallon batch today, and we're using a green tea, but it's a mandarina blend.
Okay.
So you get kind of an orange smell
Yeah.
from it. Normally I would just use straight black tea, but for this project, we're gonna try something a little bit different just for the TBI project.
Okay. So I can make it at home, and definitely sounds like there's a price difference if I make it at home as opposed to getting it in the
sure.
store. And so, as I start, I know you mentioned the idea of I would need tea and kind of a way, obviously, to steep it with hot water.
Yeah.
But what other things do I need? I mean, do I need a big fermenter? Do I need...
Okay, like I said, we're only making a 1-gallon batch right now.
Okay.
And the whole purpose of this is, I'm gonna tie it into beer real quick, is we need to propagate our culture.
Okay.
So we're technically building a starter right now.
Oh, okay.
What we have right now is not going to be our end-to-end product. This is just taking our culture from its home right now and putting it in a little bit bigger home so that we can prop it up. Now you can take this one package and put it in a 5-gallon batch, and it will not work well at all.
Really? Okay.
Yes. And the reason is because this starter only has enough liquid in it to propagate about a gallon.
Ah,
Now,
okay.
once you get this gallon propagated, you can then move up a little bit more, and you can go to a 2.5
Okay.
or a 3. And then once you get that propped, you can move on. It'll continue to spit out what we call pellicles.
Pellicles?
It'll continue to spit out those that look like those, but we will call it a SCOBY in the future. We're just trying to get people
Okay.
used to the different lingo here.
So a SCOBY, as you were saying, kind of looks like a pellicle would on beer.
Oh, it definitely does.
Okay, so I guess for those of y'all, if you're starting to get into this, and you suddenly look on the top of your kombucha and you see what looks like a pellicle, which for us as home brewers, we see something like that and panic, thinking we lost it. That's actually how it's supposed to look. Supposed to be.
I think that's one of those things, and just a recent example from all of us is Michael when he took a picture of his mold, I believe, and it had a pedicle on top of it. For him, he was like, "Oh no, it's gone, it's missing," and everybody else agreed with him. But for me, I was like, "Whoa, taste that." And that's simply because I deal with these all the time, so I see them all the time. I know what they look like, and sometimes they're completely harmless. They're just a mix of some bacteria that may have gotten in there, along with your yeast still working, and that kind of creates a culture as well.
Okay, so we're steeping the tea. How long do we need to steep it for? Can you steep it too long, or?
I don't. I have never steeped it too long. I steeped up to an hour just because I had stuff to do.
Okay.
But one important thing to note is back to when we were doing Brew 101, is you just don't want to squeeze the bag too much because then you'll get astringency out of it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that you kind of want to stay away from.
Yeah, because it tastes pretty
like
bad.
a tea bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how good were you sleeping over there?
I think we're doing okay. I mean, we got a lot of color.
We're going to give it about 1 more minute. That way that'll allow me to get some cold water so we can go ahead and cool it down real quick.
Alrighty. So, so let's see. We can do basic, 1 gallon jug, work it up to, bit by bit.
I mean, the preferred vessel is something with a spigot at the bottom.
Okay, why is that?
Now, so with kombucha, you go into what people call their F2 in kombucha brewing, which is just your secondary. I know you don't do that, but it's okay. And your secondary is where you would add different flavors, fruits, and different stuff like that, where you can actually tailor it towards your taste.
Okay, so it is something that we could add flavorings, whether it be artificial or real.
Yes.
Or even would we want to add like real fruit to it, or?
Oh yes, and the reason is because a lot of people will simply put it in gross style bottles. So they have flip tops, and they'll put the fruit puree in there and kind of weigh it out in each one, and then close it up, and that's what gets you your carbonation.
Gotcha.
For beer people, we'll use carbonation drops to get the same thing, but in kombucha, you kind of want to sweeten it up a little bit with a little bit of puree or anything like that.
So now, would I need to have an airlock on this as it ferments?
I'm glad you asked that.
Okay. Or would just aluminum foil that sanitized work?
And normally I would just scoff at that, but that is absolutely right. Kombucha needs oxygen. One thing that definitely differs it from beer is that you're sticking your yeast in the aerobic phase, where it's kind of building its numbers. You're not adding atmospheric pressure to it to kind of make it start producing alcohol. It does need permeable material on top of it. And one thing that I use all the time is some of my old work t-shirts. They work great. Just wash them up. I actually wash them with Brew Clean just to make sure they're completely clean without any fragrance on it or anything like that. A lot of people will sell you a cheesecloth. One bad thing about a cheesecloth is that it will allow small bugs in. So mosquitoes, little gnats, fruit flies love kombucha. They love it. And if you do make a mess on your counter, I suggest you clean that up rather quickly because it does attract them very quick. And that's one thing that really separates us away from beer is that you're going to have not an open top fermentation, but you're going to have enough oxygen in there to kind of make sure it moves freely. Kombucha is a living thing, so it does need that oxygen to breathe on it.
Okay. So, all right. So
you spelled SCOBY wrong.
I know. I'm sorry. I didn't know.
Oh, you spelled it so wrong.
I know. I didn't know how to spell SCOBY.
Scooby? Oh, love it.
So you'd mentioned the idea that oftentimes black tea is what's used, and then the fact that here in the United States we'll mix it with green tea. Are there other teas that we can use, like white tea? Can we use
the only teas that I would be
Lipton tea in the bag, or
I have seen people use Lipton. In the end, whatever flavor that you add to kombucha kind of overpowers it. So your base is only important in these senses. I'm gonna use whatever tea you want, but I'm gonna give you some tips and hints.
Okay.
Anything that is antibacterial, antimicrobial, Earl Grey tea, you don't want to use those. There are some other teas out there that have that are mixed with a couple of antimicrobial things.
Okay.
So you definitely want to stay away from those, because what it will in turn do is kill your bacteria that's in here. And the bacteria that's going to be in your kombucha is the same bacteria that is in your gut. So if you have what I like to call the beer belly, you can actually use kombucha to kind of get that down a little bit.
Okay. All right. So,
These people.
yes. So we got the tea steeping here. Now, you said our next step is we're going to combine this with cold water.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Do you need to make a run for cold
Yeah,
water?
I'm actually going to step out for a little bit because I'm going to get the second part of our project.
All right. So, I'll recap while you're gone. So for those of y'all just joining us, I have Cedric Freeman with us today, and we are talking about how to make kombucha. Kombucha, which is a tea that is being fermented into a beverage. He talked about the idea that normally it is something which you use black tea here in America. We oftentimes use green tea along with it, and that you will take a starter called a SCOBY, and that actually is something that you build up. You start off with a 1 gallon, then you move up to a 2.5, then you go from there to a 5 gallon batch. He said this is something definitely you can make at home. For those of y'all who are interested, it's something you can definitely make, and something you can make evidently quite inexpensively. Whereas I guess he was saying that kombucha in the store, you can pay $5 or more for a 16 ounce glass or a bottle of it. Whereas you can make it for not a whole heck of a lot of money yourself. Now, a couple of other things he mentioned was that equipment-wise, some of the stuff you'll need is you'll need the ability to steep some tea. So, definitely, you might need kind of this little like muslin bag or something like that. You'll need a SCOBY, which is something that we sell here at TxBrewing, and then you'll need a jar to ferment it in. He also mentioned the idea that unlike beer and some of the other things, the kombucha actually wants oxygen. So you're going to cover it very loosely. He's mentioned the idea of with a very clean T-shirt he does from time to time. And Cedric is back.
You are a great host, man. Just wanted to get that out there. So I do have my cold water here. Jeff, my lovely assistant, if you could actually go ahead and let's drain that a little bit.
Okay.
Make sure we don't squeeze it. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
It's all right. Y'all are seeing live now us making kombucha. Me doing my first batch of kombucha, and Cedric running around, I guess, grabbing a few other things that he did not remember. I'm left holding the bag, literally. Here he comes back.
Now, making things live is always fun because you get to see like real time how to make it and the stuff that goes into it.
Okay. So now, will I just pour this in?
All right, so now that we have it drained a little bit, we can go ahead and add this to our cold water that I have in my 1 gallon.
Okay, just pour it in.
Yep.
Okay. Like that.
Perfect.
Okay. I just discard the bag at this point?
Yeah,
or-
you can put it back in the cup, let it drip for a little bit
Okay.
more, kind of like brewing the bag would.
Gotcha.
Just kind of let it steep over there. Now I am gonna stir this up just a little bit to make sure that that's all getting combined in there.
Okay, now, the brewer in me is looking at this and saying, okay, I've not sanitized anything yet.
Yes, exactly.
And that makes me nervous.
Yeah. Now, for a lot of people, you can use Star San with kombucha, but what I would do is, for kombucha, the bubbles would not be good. You want to use some distilled water or white vinegar. Put it in there, give it a quick shake, and then dump it out.
Okay.
It's one of those things where in kombucha, what really saves us from everything like that is that our pH level here is going to be food safe. So it's going to drop it down to where other things can't live in it that would normally harm you.
Okay.
So Now that I have this water, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and add my sugar now.
Okay, now you're adding, how much sugar are we adding for this 1 gallon batch?
So for us, we're adding an actual pound of sugar.
Okay.
And that's because at the end of this, we're actually gonna split it off into a couple of different batches. So we want it to take a little bit longer so we don't have to check it every day.
Okay.
Normally the fermentation time on this is about seven days, but we want it to last a little bit longer, so we're going to try to stretch that out to 14.
Okay. But normally, I mean, if we were making this at home, we would add, what, about a cup of sugar? Or?
I would add about a cup of sugar.
Okay.
And the reason why that is because it turns over a lot quicker.
Okay, gotcha.
If you want to drink it, it's better if you just put a cup in it, and then I have a couple little charts if you're willing to make more.
Sure. Oh, and thanks for reminding me, Barry. We mentioned also earlier, and I was recapping everything.
Oh, good.
The beauty of Girillo hops. So, for those of y'all who had missed that, we were talking a little bit about the beauty of Girillo hops. So just pour it in.
Yeah, go ahead and start pouring it in.
Okay.
Okay.
Live kombucha. That's right. Here on Stay at Home and Brew It, we're making things live.
We make things live. It's like the ultimate cooking channel.
Whoops, got a little bit more in there.
Throw a seed.
All right.
I'm gonna give it a good little stir up there. Jeff, you want to use your strong hand?
Sure, I'll do some stirring. So, we'd mentioned, we talked a little bit about the idea of, once this ferments. Now, what are we looking for to know when it's finished fermenting? Is it finished fermenting when it reaches a certain pH, like you were talking about earlier, the need for pH strips, or how would I know when it's finished?
So, the best thing about kombucha is that you'll know when it's finished whenever it tastes perfect to you. This is, when I said 7 to 14 days, it's all the taste profile of yourself. And as you taste more kombucha, your taste profile will actually get more acidic, meaning that you can tolerate more acidic drinks. Which kind of makes it, you always want to keep somebody around. Like if I was tasting, making kombucha for TBI event, I would have somebody like Jeff or Tyler, just to make sure that I'm not making it too acidic for normal people.
Okay.
Because you
I'm normal?
you get acclimated to
Oh.
it. Yeah.
And Tyler's normal too.
Well, you're making kombucha right now,
Okay.
so
So I'm not that normal
You're
anymore?
about to make the turn.
Oh, man. Tyler's still normal, thank goodness.
Yes, sometimes.
All right, so I think I got it pretty well mixed in.
I mean, that is pretty perfect there, bud.
All righty, thank you, sir.
All right, so now that we have that finished, now it's time to bring out our big mama.
The Big Mama SCOBY,
The big mama.
not Scooby.
Not Scooby. Again, I'm gonna go over it real quick. SCOBY is a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast.
Okay.
That's the acronym for it. When you write it, you will see it all capitalized because each letter stands for a word. And it's so important that you source your SCOBY right. A lot of people will give them out. I know when we had our first talk with James Lalonde, he was telling me all the people that he gave it to, so that just extends my family tree of kombucha. And I have the original starter at my house so that if anything goes wrong, I can always give them more, and it'll be along the same lines that they always had.
Okay, so this is something that once you have your starter, you can continue to make more and more kombucha, and you don't ever have to...
Once it starts, it will not stop.
Okay.
Your SCOBY will continue to make more pedicles over and over again. You'll probably end up with about 50 of them.
Oh, wow.
Through your third and fourth batch. All that means is that you have a extremely healthy fermentation.
Gotcha.
And unlike beer, we're not gonna look for bubbles.
Okay, so now do I need to shake this or anything, or?
So what I normally do is I would just give it a little bit of shake.
Okay.
You don't have to be too gentle with it because we're gonna be putting it in there.
We're making kombucha live.
Yeah.
Making kombucha live?
Yeah. Brock actually loves the green apple ginger, which is what I hope to turn this into as
That's
well.
my
So should I open it?
favorite
Yeah, go ahead and open it.
I gotta see here what this looks like.
I know,
Oh, is it
right?
Ziploc?
You want to get the Tyler can?
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you get over there.
So I had the pleasure of working in the cellar at Holy Kombucha for a spell with this guy.
Really?
The Booch Master. Yeah.
Yeah, it was super fun. I mean, yeah, right.
Oh, there's like another container in there?
I guess there is.
Oh, well, that was anticlimactic.
That was anticlimactic.
There's the SCOBY.
That looks scary.
Yes, it does.
It's like alien skin.
My introduction to it was
I'll
getting
put it on the Tyler cam here.
Yeah, my introduction to it was actually getting one thrown at my face.
Oh, nice.
Which it is a vegan facial treatment as well. If you don't know what to do with all your extra scobies that you have laying around.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
That is
Uh,
pretty
Pro
freaky.
tip.
so,
All right,
if
so we
you-
need to cut it open?
yeah.
All right.
I'll
I'll go grab the scissors.
Get your strong hands.
Let's see. Sir?
Now, while Jeff's gone, I'm gonna just briefly set the scene here so it can make it easier for him.
All right. So will I pour the entire contents in here?
Yep. So we're
Okay.
just gonna open her up and we're gonna pour all the contents in it.
Okay, this looks kind of freaky.
Whoop.
Okay, that looks like an alien.
All right. Now, as you see here, I kind of got my water volume a little bit off, but it's still good. Yeah.
That's a spicy meatball.
Okay, and I'm glad you mentioned that because your SCOBY starter will be, it's just old kombucha.
Okay.
So starter is about kombucha that's been aging for about 6 months to a year.
Oh, wow.
So that's why you get that smell coming off of it. Now, just in the matter of, Tyler, how long have we been running the video? Oh, no timestamps. 30 minutes?
30 minutes.
In 30 minutes, we have made our 1 gallon batch of kombucha. Now, from here, all we would need to do is put, like Jeff was saying earlier, an old t-shirt, something breathable on top of it and secure it with a rubber band. That's what we're gonna do once we get off air. I'm gonna take it back there and secure it, make sure everything. But for right now, we're just gonna put this on top of it so nothing can get inside of there.
Okay.
Now, is there a certain temperature that you should hold that kombucha at?
Okay, that's good. A good question.
Now, when you're fermenting this, there's a little saying in kombucha, and the saying is cold equals mold. In Texas, that's a great thing for us because
It's not cold.
it's not cold at all. And based on your temperature, where you are, where you put it, something like this, I actually put right on my kitchen counter next to my air fryer. It tends to kick up a little bit of heat when I'm running it.
Okay. Can it be too hot?
It cannot be too hot.
Okay.
Now, if it is like 112, 113 boiling water temp,
Okay.
it will cook your SCOBY in there. So you want to avoid that. But as far as house temperatures, you would have to try really hard to heat it up.
Yeah, Barry, it does kind of look like a jellyfish.
It does. Yeah, it's a weird thing.
So we don't mix it in or anything
No.
like that? Just leave it?
It's perfect the way
Okay.
it is. And the best thing about kombucha is the best way that you can mess things up with kombucha is by touching it all the time. It's a set it and forget it. It wants to be left alone. Like I said, it's a culture that's trying to meld together. It's going to chew on that sugar a little bit. And your SCOBY is going to help facilitate all of
Okay.
that.
So what's healthy about kombucha?
So, I'm glad you asked. The healthy part about kombucha is when you look at a can of soda, you're looking at about 70 grams of sugar. With kombucha, we put in sugar at the beginning, but we're not going to add any more sugar at the back end. We're going to use natural fruit purees or something like that, so we get our natural sugars in our body.
Okay.
Rather than, a lot of 70 grams of sugar per 12-ounce can. That's a lot. This can help you cut back on sugar. It gives you a little bit of sweetness, but it does it in a different way by spitting out different acids. And acids can sometimes trick our taste buds into thinking it's actual sugar without all the cravings and the spikes in your glycemic index. So
Okay.
it's really good. And then it also helps your gut bacteria actually handle your food and take it through your system.
Okay. So it's almost like, sometimes I'll take probiotics.
Yes.
Is it kind of like that with some healthy gut bacteria?
You will actually make probiotics in here
Okay.
without the need to add more. So if you're one of those people who, wakes up, takes the horse pill every day to try to get, it's one of those things once you get a little bit older, I would say around 30.
Or like me, very old.
Yeah. I'm a little health conscious just because once you get into, the production side of things, you start dealing with the FDA and you start reading labels and nutritional facts, and you start to see what you put in your body, and you start to learn how to make smarter decisions about that. And kombucha is one of those things that's always a smart decision. And another thing I love about it is that it's fun to make. We made it in 30 minutes.
Yeah, that was
and,
easy.
We didn't even break a sweat. I did from running back and forth, but that was my fault. And then again, I guess we will do a podcast in the future to show what we do in secondary of this.
Yes.
And how it turns out. And then that would make Jeff his first kombucha batch.
My first kombucha.
How do you feel about it?
I feel good, I think.
Yeah. What questions do you have about it?
Well, okay, so at what point would we begin to add flavorings or fruit or things like that?
So, like I said, fermentation takes about 7 to 14 days, and the reason why there's a week span that I'm saying is because after that 7 days, we're gonna taste it almost daily to see what spot is our sweet spot.
Okay.
And like I said, that's up to each and every kombucha brewer to decide that. Some people like me can take it more acidic, and some people like you maybe, oh, that's acidic, and shy away from it.
Yeah.
So it depends on our targeted audience of when we actually transfer it out. I actually like to use the small siphon.
Okay.
And once you do rack it over in the secondary, you want to make sure that you mix it up a little bit because your yeast, just like in beer, will fall to the bottom once it's done.
Okay.
And you want some of that yeast to kind of pick up the fermentation of your puree or whatever extract that you're putting in it.
Okay.
To sweeten it up on your back end.
So, let's say this was our 5-gallon batch and it's finished. We would then rack it into secondary to go ahead and add our fruit and such then? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then, and for kombucha, your F2 or your secondary fermentation would normally take place in a bottle.
Oh, okay. So
because you're carbonating it. So that's when we need,
okay.
that pressure to kind of hold it together. A lot of kombucha brewers don't have kegs like we do.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and we would just rack it straight over to a keg, force carb it up a little bit, only needs a little bit, and then consume.
Okay.
Until it's done.
Now, if somebody wanted their kombucha a little sweeter, and they didn't, because I guess adding sugar would kind of kick it all back up again.
Yep.
Can they add an artificial sweetener, or would you advise against something like that?
Now, artificial sweetener, I will make this disclaimer. A lot of artificial sugars are super sweet. Just make sure the one that you choose is something that you've used before, because it can make kind of a nasty taste in your mouth. So you want to make sure that the artificial sugar that you're using is something that you use on the daily, especially in drinks.
Okay.
Stuff that you cook with can sometimes taste different when you mix it with a drink or solution, kind of like kombucha. So you just want to make sure that it's something that tastes good to you.
Okay. So, Gene, it sounds like you add the puree when you'd be bottling.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next thing I was wondering, because as we made it, you were using the turbinado sugar that we have here at the shop. Could I use regular, just like white table sugar?
You can use any sugar that your heart desires, except for some non-fermentable sugars. Like we wouldn't use lactose in here. That would just...
Okay, but like brown sugar, just the regular white table sugar.
Anything that you can find at the store.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I say anything that tastes good to you. This is the ultimate customized project right here. I've seen people use raw cane sugar, your normal white table sugar. I bought some sugar at the Dollar Tree and I used it in here. Like it's pretty wide open and pretty wide available. So whatever you use, just try to make sure you write it down. So if it doesn't turn out good, you'll know what you did.
Okay. Gene was asking, could you use agave syrup?
I have not used agave syrup.
Or could you use maple syrup?
Ooh. So for agave and maple, what came to my head is that's something that you want a secondary with or
Oh.
F2 with in
Okay.
your bottle. And the reason why is because that's going to give off a strong flavor profile already in your kombucha. And since this technically is our starter or is going to be our starter, we really don't want to make the flavor profile on it too bold because we want to be able to mix it with certain different things at the end.
Okay. Oh, kind of going back a little bit.
Yeah.
For the water, can I just use my regular water out of the tap, or do I want to filter it, or do anything special?
I would definitely spring water or filtered water. I love tap water, but the thing that scares me in kombucha is that the chlorine may interact with your SCOBY and start killing off things that kind of keep the bad things in check. Kind of like using hand sanitizer.
Okay.
You kill all of the germs, including the ones that hold the bad ones in check. So.
Okay. And then during fermentation, this doesn't make alcohol at all, does it?
Now, we'll produce a little bit of alcohol.
Okay.
It will produce about the same amount that you find in orange juice. For those of you who didn't know that orange juice does ferment, that's how the monkeys got drunk. Finding rotten fruit on the jungle floor, and pick it up and get a little drunk.
Yeah, because Barry was asking about an episode on hop water for his non-alcoholic friends, or now I guess non-alcohol friends.
Where were you doing seltzer, man?
Barry, check out the seltzer episode. That's something you can definitely make for your friends that don't drink alcohol. Sounds like this also might be something, but then there's still a small amount of alcohol in it.
So this is a small amount of alcohol. It's considered It's considered NA just because it's not a substantial amount. It's always less than 1%. 0.5 is the level for anything that you find in your stores. So anything that has more alcohol than that won't be allowed to be sold in any store. You can just look at our.
Yeah, just checking it out.
Yeah, it's freaking cool.
What does SCOBY stand for?
So SCOBY is a do you remember?
Acronym?
Yeah.
No.
Oh man,
What's-
I just said it. It was like, oh, yo, Jeff.
Sorry.
So, yeah,
What's
Tyler just nailed it.
what was it, Tyler?
Symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast.
Symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast.
Perfect. Yes, it's a cool little acronym, especially when you break down the meaning of it.
Symbiotic, unity.
Exactly. That's the theme of our show today.
Unity cookies, unity sandwiches,
Sandwiches make everybody happy.
and the beauty of Girillo.
The beauty of Jura. I'm gonna allow some light in so you can actually see our SCOBY is kind of just floating there. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of space it out a little bit so that it covers the top. Now, you can see it's kind of folded, and all I'm doing is kind of just folding it back out to make sure that it covers the top of it.
Okay, so you want that, much like a pellicle topping on a beer, you want the pellicle protects it. Is that true?
So, and there's a lot of theories out there for kombucha. I almost broke out in song on it. There's a lot of theories out there, and people are like, you have to brew with a pellicle. And I say this, my final word on it is that it's kind of like a newborn baby. It doesn't have the necessary skin to fight off everything.
Okay.
So brewing with your pedicle will actually protect it from getting bugs and stuff in it. So, like we have the top off right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of why I spread it out a little bit. So if something was to fall in there, we'll be easy to scoop it off the top.
Gotcha.
Do
Okay.
you have to sanitize everything before you do this?
So sanitation and kombucha is kind of here nor there, but white distilled vinegar is held as the #1 thing that you want to sanitize every with.
Okay.
I don't like to use vinegar, so I do use Star San on things, and I do wash them off with clean water, not just tap water, clean water, which is water that I have on the stove that's been boiling. I actually heat up a little bit more water than I need for steeping my tea.
Okay.
That way I can sanitize everything with really hot water.
Okay.
Distilled water would work fine?
Distilled water works fine, but you don't want to make your kombucha with it. And the reason why is because distilled water is what I call empty, so it doesn't hold the kombucha taste into it.
Okay.
It'll just fall right out. It needs something to kind of hold on to, so that's why I recommend spring or filter tap water.
So, is there a kombucha water profile?
Oh, geez.
I had to ask.
And this is where he takes everything that is simple and makes it hard. No, but we can definitely work on that. I'd be excited to work on that,
Sure,
actually.
I think that'd be fun.
I mean, we can replicate some Chinese water from the 18th century.
Do you have to
1800s century.
sanitize this jar and everything first?
So what I did with this jar is I actually put hot water in there and kind of shook it around a little bit. I'm not looking for a complete annihilation of everything in there, because I know once my culture gets in there and I'm hit my pH just right, I'm gonna be just fine. Actually, what I did in this to make sure I met my pH right is that I use a little less water than what they were requiring. That way, I can always have more starter in it than I have actual kombucha product that I'm making. And that will save you if you don't have test strips. Like right now, we didn't want to run over there and get some test strips. But I made it so it's definitely in its safe position, and then I have a little extra starter on the side just in case it didn't. I can top it up a little bit.
Yeah, Barry, maybe the Topo Chico water. We'll have to see. Barry mentioned the Topo Chico water profile for this.
Oh, it's...
We might.
Yeah, he only did that to me once, and I'm glad he did. It's always good to have somebody who questions your decisions and everything. That way you're always working to find a different product and different stuff.
Will this SCOBY grow
Oh,
large in size? Or?
so again, kombucha is a living thing. What we have in there right now, you can tell that it's young because in about 4 or 5 days, we will start seeing this mother start to have little babies.
Okay.
And it
That sounds creepy, but
yes,
okay.
it is because it's living in your drink and keeping it safe.
Okay.
So it's gonna have little babies on it.
Little scobettes?
And you're gonna see like little layers. It's like an onion. So many layers in there.
Okay.
So many. So you're gonna see your small SCOBY or pedicle, if you're in brewing, start to replicate and multiply. And the reason why it does that is because it definitely wants to make sure that it can live on. And plus, what you're going to do is you're going to actually expand this a little bit more as you go on to more batches.
Okay.
You're going to keep using it. So if it only stayed this size, you wouldn't be able to, use it as often as you would like.
Okay.
How about storage? Can I reuse this?
Store it?
SCOBY?
Yes, I would definitely reuse this SCOBY. There's 2 different methods, kind of like there is in brewing, where you have brew in a bag and then you have your all grain steeping method. There's 2 different methods that you use, and this one, what we're doing, is going to be called continuous brew, which means that we're going to continuously brew in this vessel. All we're going to do is add more of our sweet tea mixture, our tea and our sugar, and we're just going to fill it right back up.
Okay.
And then our SCOBY's going to float right back to the top. Now, I just want to cut the head off the snake right now before we get to it. And that is, if you buy one of these from us and you put it in and your SCOBY just happens to sink down to the bottom, what do? Absolutely nothing. It's totally okay for your pedicle to sit on bottom. It has nothing to do with how well or...
It's not a dead SCOBY.
No, it's not a dead SCOBY at all.
Okay.
There is actual science to it of why they float and why they don't float. But we're going to keep it simple for right now and just say, hey, just let it do its thing. Like I said, you want to cover it with something that is airy but will not let bugs in. Cheesecloths kind of have bigger holes in it.
Yeah.
So I like I said, I recommend an old t-shirt that you've washed.
Could I do like a coffee filter maybe? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Many people do coffee filters as well. I just want that maximum airflow. Cotton breeze well.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, and I mean,
Do I need to store this in like a dark place, or is it okay? I mean, like, could we keep it out here in the shop in the open? Or
I do prefer to keep it in a dark place, and the only reason why is because the UV light can kill things, as we figured out. And so we really don't want our UV light or sun shining through it, kind of messing it up. And also, one important thing is since it is living, don't put your bad feelings around this. Any
So
bad
talk nicely
thoughts?
to it?
Oh, you want to talk nicely around it. You want to be gentle in the room. You want to play some happy music. It really likes.
Like 9 Inch Nails or Angry Viking music.
Angry Viking music works as long as they have a good subject.
The Guardians of Asgard.
I do like the yelling. Happy by Pharrell Williams does work as well. Makes it turn over
Alright.
so much quicker. But the whole point is to just keep good moods around it. Because if, bad moods are around it, you would see it start browning. And that's okay. But we want to keep our SCOBY pearly white, happy, with everything going on, okay?
All right, cool. All right, well, doesn't look like we have any more questions. Any last things that we should know before we close out, and then we'll do a follow-up episode probably in
14 days?
14 days.
Let's
Let
say
y'all know
14.
kind of where things are at. Any last little bits of little pearls of wisdom from Cedric, our master booch maker?
If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the shop. I know a lot of times people, when they see videos, they'll message me afterwards to be like, hey, I had a question, but I didn't want to ask it. Always feel free. An open beer community is one of the things where you can say something, yeah, 2 people will jump your butt for it. But yeah, we're welcome with answers. We're always open for it. Like I said, and one little tidbit that I want to kind of add in here is always involve other people in your brewing process. And what that allows you to do is kind of stay focused on the task at hand. Kind of like I was doing, I had Jeff to kind of keep me focused and on point. Like, our tea is steeping. How long do we do it for? That's very good to have, especially when you're brewing kombucha, because you can get pretty lax around it and kind of not just forget about it. And which is why I involved you. So even if I'm not at the shop in 14 days, I can be like, hey, Jeff, do that thing again. And, we can do that.
Okay, awesome. Well,
Oh, and I am putting a kit together, so it will have tea and everything ready for you, just in case you're still on the fence about it and we have to convince you a little bit more.
awesome. All right, well, so if you missed part of it, feel free to to watch the first part of the episode where we talk about making kombucha. We made it in no time flat. It was very easy. My first batch of kombucha, and we would like to.
Hi, Mom.
Oh, hi, Mom.
Hi, Brock's mom.
Forgot about
But
that.
we'd like to thank y'all for watching. Thank you for your support, your orders. We've been keeping busy. In fact, after this, Cedric and I have to start running because there's a lot of orders that keep coming in.
I know.
And so we thank you for your support, for your orders, for watching. And if you have questions about kombucha making, feel free to contact Cedric or any of us, or about beer. But we appreciate it.
We appreciate it a lot. And then again from us, we want you to, be safe
Stay at home.
and brew it.
Cheers.
Cheers.